Most people open the Bible and read Genesis as if it's the first story ever told. But here's the controversy. Genesis was not written in a vacuum. Its stories echo and, in some cases, borrow from far older traditions that existed long before the Israelites. Put pen to parchment. Genesis wasn't written at the dawn of humanity. Most scholars agree it was compiled and edited during or after the Babylonian exile around the 6th century BCE. That's over 1,000 years after the events it claims to describe. Why does that matter? Because in Babylon, the Israelites would have been surrounded by stories, like the Enuma Elish, a Mesopotamian creation epic that predates Genesis by centuries. In it, the world begins with chaos waters, gods separate, light from darkness, and humans are formed. From divine sacrifice, sound familiar? Genesis opens with waters, light divided from darkness, and humans formed from dust. This doesn't mean Genesis is a copy and paste job, but it suggests the writers were reshaping older stories into their own narrative, one God instead of many, order instead of chaos, covenant instead of cosmic war. Now let's talk about Adam and Eve. The story of a divine garden, a forbidden tree, and a serpent isn't unique to Genesis. Sumerian myths like the tale of Adapa also feature a man given wisdom but denied eternal life. In that story, Adapa is offered the food of immortality but refuses it, mirroring how humanity in Genesis loses access to the tree of life. And the serpent, in surrounding cultures, serpents often represented wisdom, healing, and eternal life. In Genesis, the serpent becomes a deceiver, a force pulling humanity away from God. That flip tells us more about the editor's theological agenda than about a literal talking snake. The flood of Noah? Again, not original. The Epic of Gilgamesh, written centuries earlier, describes Utnapishtim building a massive boat, bringing animals aboard, surviving a divine flood, and sending out birds to test the waters. Genesis follows the same storyline, almost detail for detail, but reframes it around Yahweh's justice and covenant. This is what makes Genesis powerful. It isn't inventing stories from scratch. It's reinterpreting shared myths to declare a radical new vision, one supreme God guiding humanity, not a chaotic pantheon of warring deities. So what does this alternative look reveal? Genesis isn't a science textbook or a neutral historical record. It's a cultural manifesto, a deliberate reshaping of older myths into a story of identity, unity, and divine purpose for a people in exile. That means when we read Genesis, literally, we risk missing its deeper power. It wasn't trying to explain geology or biology. It was trying to answer the human questions of who we are, where we come from, and who, if anyone, is guiding our story. And here's the controversy. Once we realize Genesis stands in dialogue with other ancient texts, the question isn't, did it happen exactly this way? The real question is, why did the writers shape it this way, and what were they trying to say about God, humanity, and power?